Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel.
Democratic Representative Don Vruwink of Milton is seeking re-election in the 43rd Assembly District. Don, welcome back to WisconsinEye.
Thank you, Steve, for having me here today.
My question for all incumbent legislators: if you're re-elected, now that you know the system, top priority in the next session, sir?
To me, it's funding. It's funding the roads is really a top priority. I held a road funding forum at Culver's in Newville, and I had about 20 people attend. And to the person, everyone said we need to find a stable funding source for transportation.
And you could vote for what?
I could vote for something that would provide us a funding source down the road. I'm open. I'd have to hear the suggestions, but we just need to have a stable source that gives us more money for our transportation systems.
If you were designing a package, would it raise the gas tax, the registration fee? Would it include tolling?
All the options, I think, from people I heard from my district, and I represent them, all those options should be open according to them.
What's at stake for your district if we don't break this impasse?
Well, what's at stake is continued. You know, I get letters from constituents talking about the edges of the road are broken off. You know, they just say it's costing them more for repairs by not funding the roads than if we would fund the roads. So, and then the bottlenecks. I mean, the interstate is a bottleneck, but more people are going on the side roads to avoid the interstate, and so it's causing more damage to the local roads. And as my town of Dunkirk chairman told me, he says, "Tell the people in Madison this is the first time we've ever had to borrow to fix our roads." Okay. And so they have a concern, and they just need more revenue.
Huge issue is health care. How do we preserve and maybe expand health care in the rural areas, Representative?
Well, that's a big concern to me. And in my district, you know, we're so close to Janesville, we're so close to Madison that it doesn't affect the rural people as much because they have access. But where I grew up, it's a little different. They don't have many options of where they can get their health care. And we know it's more expensive to live in the rural areas. For people who are older, the rural areas are older. They have a harder time going farther distances to get their health care. In the case like my mother, she doesn't have a driver's license. She's 86. She has to get somebody to take her. And if my family didn't take off from work, it affects them. They have to, So I'm concerned that we keep access to health care for everybody in Wisconsin, especially in these rural districts.
You mentioned caregivers. AARP estimates that 578,000 Wisconsin residents are caregivers. So my follow-up question is this: would you support laws or regulations that require hospitals to recognize and work with family caregivers when those they love are hospitalized?
Definitely, because we know that when people can stay in their homes, and it's important for people to stay in their homes, they do better. Like I said, my mother stays with my brother. He's a caregiver for her and gives her a home. And we're fortunate to have that. But as I go across the district and I do doors and I talk to the elderly people, they don't want to leave their homes. And they need help to get to the places they have to go. So we definitely have to give support. It's a lot cheaper than putting people in nursing homes. To keep them in their own homes, they do better. They feel like I just know when my dad had a stroke and we had to take him out of his house, he never was happy being in a nursing home. And he died in a nursing home. He wanted to come home from the first day he was in a nursing home. So I really believe keeping people in their homes, giving caregivers some kind of break for helping to do that is going to help all of Wisconsin.
So state government has a duty to retain and recruit doctors, nurses, and other medical health care professionals?
I truly believe they do. I truly believe that doing something for doctors in rural areas, keeping them there, it should be a duty of ours. I mean, I sit on the rural task committee for rural areas and mining, and we heard that from people from all parts of the state that keeping doctors and keeping nurses especially are very difficult because of what we pay them. And so I think it's important for our state to recognize that when a nurse can make more in Quick Trip than they can in a rural nursing home, it's a problem. It's something we have to make a priority.
The program that state government and Delta Dental have that subsidizes dental clinics in low-income areas, that should remain a priority in the next MA budget then?
I believe so. Like I said, I grew up in a rural area. I know the challenges that rural people face, especially when you get older, when it's difficult to drive and finding somebody to take you there without, so we have to keep access open to them because it's cheaper in the long run to do preventative care than it is to wait until everything blows up and they need full, hospitalization or something.
Local governments have been living with levy limits to control property taxes 13, 14 years. Is it time to loosen those levy limits, keep them, or get rid of them?
Well, in the last 13 to 14 years since levy limits have been implemented, I was on the city council of Milton for 4 years. I was city council president my last year on city council. We had to deal with revenue limits, and the only way you can raise more revenue is actually to do more building. And it makes a challenge to try to fund all the things you need to fund. I currently am vice president of the Milton School Board, where now we moved to another place. We had levy limits. And in our school board, on the school board, we were 424 in spending in our district throughout the state, which was the lowest in the state. But we have needs, and we have a hard time passing a referendum. If we could have levied more money and just levied the state average, we could have probably saved $15 to $20 million for our needs for our school district, which is something we can't do. And I think all decisions are better locally done because we have to answer to taxpayers every 2 years on the council, every 3 years as a school board person. So I believe we're more frugal with the money than maybe what the state is.
You voted against the Kimberly-Clark tax breaks. You voted against the Foxconn tax incentives, tax breaks. Now Kimberly-Clark has given the Senate till September 30 to act. You still believe that's a bad deal for taxpayers?
Well, the reason I voted against Foxconn is because I believe our state needs a 72-county solution. I spoke about that on the floor of the Assembly. I'm all for bringing jobs, but I thought with Foxconn, we didn't really do our homework. We didn't really have the Great Lake Compact access to that water. Now we have Illinois suing us because they're afraid of the overflow from heavy rains might cause to them. I think all of that should have been settled, and we made sure we had, all these things in place before we voted on Foxconn. If it's a good deal, you don't need to rush it. It should be studied. It should be done. Same with Kimberly-Clark. I had uncles and brothers who worked in the paper mill in Wisconsin Rapids. They closed down. So if every time, and Wisconsin Rapids lost a lot of jobs from that, and they're still recovering from that. But if we voted for every time a major company is going to close down, I mean, how many jobs did we subsidize? I'm all for creating jobs, but I don't think you can subsidize every major company. Should we give every farmer who's going out of business some subsidy to keep them in business as an individual? That's the question that has to be asked.
Okay. The current budget, as you know, there's an increase in state aid for K-12 schools. Do we need another similar large increase in the next state budget, Mr. School Board member?
The schools can always use more money. We're always looking to find the best deal. We just, as I just voted on this last week, we just replaced all of our technology because Apple has come out with a better product. And so we had a 4-year lease, but we're only on our 3rd year. So we had to be creative, and we found out we could save about $50,000. So we renegotiated and got a better package deal. So we're always having to look for those things in order to save money. We have some great needs in our district. We have students who are being taught in a closet.
In a closet?
We have a closet in our middle school, in which we have a first-year teacher who's teaching in a closet. We have every one of our classrooms are utilized. We have no empty spaces, no storage areas for anything. Yet we've had a difficult time passing a referendum. We've had 2 failed referendums because people see things differently and they don't want their taxes raised. So you always, can we use more money? Definitely. Now, I sat on the Assembly Education Committee, and I had 16 school districts testify how they would close without the sparsity aid because they're they're down to the basics. All the programs that they can offer are just the ones that are required because they don't have the students, they don't have the people. And so when we talk about an equal education for all in the state, I'm not so sure that that's happening.
Well, which leads me to my next question. You watched the voucher, the choice program expand. Should it expand further, stay where it is, or dial it back?
Well, I'm not in favor of the voucher program.
You're not?
Expanding because it takes money away from the public schools. And the public schools are doomed to fail when you continue to take money for them. When everything goes up at a faster rate, the cost goes up than at what schools can levy for their taxes and what they get for aid. So they're doomed. So why wouldn't they fail? If you had a budget in which your salary went up or didn't go up at all or went up very little and everything you spent went up beyond, how could you survive? And then as school buildings get older, they become more expensive to operate. And so it makes it difficult. I mean, oftentimes it's the administration gets to blame, but what else can they do? They're destined to fail.
Our prisons are overcrowded according to their design standards. 2 of our adult male prisons were built in the 1800s. Do we need a new prison?
No. What we need to do is make sure people don't go to prison. We need to invest in families. We need to invest in mentors for these people who go to prison. The money would be much better spent in preventing people from going to prison. We have to go back and look at the root cause. Let's look at the facts and why these people are going to prison. What's happening to make them go to prison? If we can cut down the number of people going to prisons, we won't need to build more prisons, and then we get more people out into our workforce, and we can solve some of those issues. So spending money in a new prison is not in my what I foresee in my future of voting for.
Part of this debate is the question of whether to legalize recreational marijuana or medical marijuana. Your positions?
The thing with medical marijuana, I certainly support that. I've had people who've contacted me from my district who tell me that it certainly helps them. On marijuana itself, that's something I would have to consider. See what the bill says. Because when you talk about marijuana, what are you talking about? 2% THC, 18% THC. There's such a legal difference, or there's such a difference in what marijuana contains. I'd have to look at more particulars. I'd have to see. We've had other states who've legalized marijuana. Before this bill would ever come forth, I'd have to look at what the effect in Colorado is. What's the pros and cons of what happened in Colorado? So it's hard for me to answer that question right now because there's nothing before us. And knowing the differences in marijuana, I think makes a big difference in how I would vote.
You want to highlight differences between you and your opponent on November 6th?
I don't know what my opponent's differences are. We haven't actually ever debated. So I'm not sure what our differences at this point are. Tonight we have a forum that we're going to be together at, so then that would maybe help me to accentuate our differences. All I can tell you is that I keep working hard for the people in my district. I get to all areas. I represent from Whitewater to Milton to Edgerton to Oregon. I've become a member of the Greater Whitewater Committee, so I attend meetings there every month to know what their concerns are. In Milton, I'm a member of the Milton Area Chamber of Commerce, so I hear the differences there. Of course, the school board, I know what is going on there. Yeah. In Edgerton, I'm close friends with the mayor and city council people, so I know what their issues are. In Oregon, the schools are part of my connection there. I go back and sub on Mondays or Fridays. I'm not going to do that till after the election, but I get in their schools, I hear their concerns, so I try to keep a connection to all parts of my district. And I represent 15 townships, so I go to the town meetings all the time to hear their concerns. So I think people appreciate the fact that you have connections to each one of your areas of your district. And this summer I did rural doors in 3 townships where I did all the roads in each township. So and my mailer wasn't delivered to areas in 5 townships, so I delivered that personally to their doors. And that way I get a chance to talk to people and stay attuned to the issues of my district.
Thank you. Democratic Representative Don Vruwink of Milton is seeking re-election in the 43rd Assembly District. The election is November 6th. Representative, thank you for talking to Wisconsin Eye.
Great. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.